but I'm going to talk today about getting access to NAIRR resources that Shelley told us about. It's going to really provide an overview of the proposal and review process. Don't worry, it might seem a little complicated, but as Shelley said, there's a lot of support. Shout out to Lauren, Tim, and Dave. They were the one who provided these slides. So just a little bit of information about me. I'm Maytal Dahan. I'm the Director of Advanced Computing Interfaces at the Texas Advanced Computing Center. My work focuses on building and operating large-scale platforms, tools, and services to really connect resources to advanced computing. I'm also a co-PI of SGX3, which is the Center of Excellence for Science Gateways. They're sort of front-end interfaces to your research to access and use national cyber infrastructure. And then I've been engaged with NAIRR as part of the Pilot Coordination Office and the Pilot Portal team. So if any of this interests you, feel free to come up to me. So a little bit about NAIRR. Shelley really already told us a lot about NAIRR, but it really connects researchers and educators to compute capacity, tools, data, and training resources. It's a multi-agency, public and private pilot coordinated by NSF. It really is meant to create equitable access regardless of academic or nonprofit organization, size, type of funding, really to try to democratize AI, bring people into AI. There's a lot of resources. There's the NAIRR Pilot newsletter, which you're welcome to go find on the website. Apologies, I don't have the QR code on here. So a little bit about eligibility and requirements. So a research or course must have an AI component. That's pretty much the most basic thing. Part of your research has to do with AI. The PI or principal investigator or the lead instructor for a course and other users and learners must be from an eligible organization physically based in the US. So really this is very important. It's a non-starter. You don't have to be a US citizen in most cases, but you do have to be affiliated with a US institution. All your award details and abstracts are going to be published on the NAIRR Pilot website, so keep that in mind as you fill things out. NAIRR allocation requests and use of the pilot resources must use an institutional email address. You can't use a Gmail address, so you really have to be affiliated and verified with a US institute. A little bit about the focus areas. I'm not going to read through all of these, but they really should align with one or more of the NAIRR Pilot focus areas. There are other areas of AI research that can be applicable and are a consideration. Really reach out for support to find out if you're really wondering whether or not your specific AI research applies to this. The website, nairrpilot.org, has a ton of information. It is constantly being updated, so feel free to go look for the sort of current source of truth to this. Here are some example use cases for the NAIRR Pilot resources, including delivering hands-on AI courses, new foundational models for large-scale medical imaging datasets, training, tuning, and using large language models that we learned about today, applications from code generation to medical diagnoses. There's really a large range of potential applications, resource needs, and technologies that NAIRR is applicable for. One way to figure out, does my research apply, is to look at the awarded abstracts. On the website, nairrpilot.org, projects awarded, you can find it off the top main navigation, is a search feature that shows all the awarded abstracts. So you can filter by field of science, you can look to see if it's a NAIRR classroom, you can look by specific resource, and really read about that specific project and find out, you know, is this sort of similar to what I've done? Okay, great, my research really can apply to using NAIRR. There's also a really detailed available resources. So this contains really important information specific to the resources themselves, the recommended use, the specific systems and service eligibility, the requirements for using it. Really consult this first. I think that's sometimes the hardest question that projects come to is like, what resources apply to me? There's no actual US dollars getting transferred here. You're not winning a grant here. You're getting time to be consumed on these various resources. So one of the really unique things about NAIRR Pilot, which is really exciting to all of us, is this public-private partnership and the availability of private sector resources. So as you can see here, these resources represent lots of leading edge offerings from corporate and nonprofit organizations, and they really have specialized cloud computing environments, specialized hardware, models, software, and other AI tools. The resource catalog is really where to go to figure out what is available for you. And again, all these are available at no cost. So there's also a large number of federally supported GPU and CPU resources available. Here is a small example. These comprise mostly of homogeneous partitions that are dominated by single accelerator or processor type. For example, not all GPU systems contain 4 GPUs per node. You really have to kind of take a look at the resource provider and figure out what makes sense. These are also constantly changing. So again, going back to the NAIRR Pilot website, figuring out what resources make sense for your research is very important. And there is lots of support to help figure that out. As Shelley said, there's lots of experts who can really help you match what you're trying to do with the resources that are available. So additionally, NAIRR Pilot also offers resources with really alternative architectures. As you can see, there's Chameleon, there's NSDS Secure Compute. These offer a wide range of needs beyond more conventional HPC. So how do you get a resource? It's all called allocations. A lot of this terminology is kind of very specific to the NAIRR ecosystem, or as Shelley said earlier, kind of the access, the good old days of Exceed and TerraGrid. And allocation is really what gives you time on these systems. So to figure out what allocations are available, you would look under current opportunities. There are different types of project options. There's research resources, educational resources, startup projects, and deep partnerships. And I'll go into these in more detail. So deep partnerships is one of the newer opportunities that are available. They really offer unique and discrete opportunities to do deeper collaboration between private sector providers and research teams. Some potential projects, partnership expectation, duration, submission deadline, all is that sort of available and varies depending on your needs. Detailed information on each partnership can be found on the website, but this is a really new and engaging way to kind of engage with these resource providers in a more meaningful way. Oops. Oh, sorry. Okay, so a little bit about the allocation process themselves. At this time, proposals for full-scale allocations are accepted at any time. Usually that soft deadline is around the 15th of the month, just to keep that in mind. And they should be submitted when you're ready to actually kind of work on the project and take advantage of those resources. Classroom and educator proposals will also need to list a specific start date. So if you have a course in mind that you're planning in the spring, you need to be able to have those dates available. Proposals are all peer-reviewed monthly, and these are reviewers that come from AI research, education, computing communities. Select proposals are then matched with the right resources. They could be adjusted, they could be declined. And that's where kind of what you write here helps them make those decisions. So proposal instructions for each opportunity can be found on the NAIRR Pilot website. It's really important, just like if you do an NSF grant, to read and follow those instructions. You don't want to get rejected because you didn't do something procedurally. Again, these are not research proposals. They're specific requests for computational data resources. There's a ton of materials, and also there's a video available online on how to request resources, which kind of goes into my presentation in more depth. So I'm going to dig into a little bit of the details of what takes place in the allocation process. So first thing is your project description. This is really a bulk of what you're going to talk about, and it's broken up into 4 parts. Part A covers the scientific and technical goals. This should be really user-friendly. A general audience should be able to read it. It doesn't need to be written for domain experts. You really want to avoid complexity and lots of technical jargon there. It should only take about a page. If the proposal includes multiple projects or multiple aims, you might really want to break that into multiple allocation. Part B is this estimate of compute, storage, and other resources. This is a justification of what you'll need. Support needs, this is kind of the support you need, and then a little bit more about your team. What kind of team you have, how do you have the team to make sure that you can use the requested resources. So you want to make sure you align with the review criteria. So there are 4 sections of the allocation request beyond eligibility criteria, and they're evaluated under these 6 areas. So 1, alignment with the NAIRR Pilot project focus areas, your project readiness, are you ready to make immediate progress? Your feasibility for technical approach, is your argument sound? Do you understand what you're trying to do with these resources? Do you make a good argument for your need of these requested resources versus what's otherwise available to your team? Does your team have the knowledge and expertise to undergo what they're saying? And then a justification for the estimated resource requirements. So how did you come up with what you're requesting and how much you're requesting? Next, in the scientific and technical goal, this is about 1 page, and it's really to guide the content of your project description. And this is typically close to a page in length. It covers the scientific and methodological basis for which you cite some of your prior work. You indicate your alignment with the NAIRR pilot focus areas, your overall timetable for the research, and your plan for how you're gonna disseminate the work. External funding isn't always required, but it is helpful if you do have some. Next is the estimate of compute, storage, and other resources. So you really need to articulate the amount of resource that you need based upon the requirements and scaling information from a clearly described benchmark or scaling tests. Really failing to do so is one of the more common reasons why these fail. You really want to explain how many resource units, credits, or dollars you might need depending on the resource, and then how much computing time is needed on the resource type, how many such computations, how much data storage is needed. Really, proposers should summarize these usually via tables to really help make this super clear to the reviewers. And then next is support needs. This is where you can indicate the level of support that you need to make sure that you're going to be able to use those planned resources. Depending on your prior experience with these resources, your support needs might be minimal and may only include sort of requirements for the resources themselves. But if you're requesting research collaboration by some resource providers, really describe what you would need for support. This is separate from the deep partnerships opportunity that I talked about earlier, which is very specific to a single resource provider. Next, the final section is team and team preparedness. This is where you can reinforce your team's readiness and ability to begin working on the resources right away. Make sure that you list all your team members and their access to the various resources. You need to include their title and institutional affiliation. Again, U.S. institutional affiliation is required. And then certain resources that are federally funded also require U.S. citizenship, but you can see that in the resource requests. This is where you can also indicate your team's expertise and experience relevant to your specific proposal. Here are some common pitfalls that we see. Based on our experience, reviewers really want to help you. They really want these research proposals to succeed. We're there to really make sure that science and research gets access to these resources, and we're able to help you guys advance your work. So really being able to follow the guidelines to make sure you're making a good argument for why you need the resources you have, really your feasibility and readiness to use those resources is really important, and there is significant support to help you get there. If you feel like you're not able to really articulate this well, it's a great opportunity to reach out to support and get some help on how to best do that. So that is the big research opportunities. There's also a classroom and educator resource opportunity. So again, on the website, there's information specifically about the education resources. This is, again, available to all US-based educators and resources and US-based students. So make sure if you're interested in using NAIRR resources in the classroom, you look at this one versus the regular research resources. So a little bit about this. It's open again to US-based undergraduate and graduate courses and short-form training session. All instructors and learners must be physically based in the US. The proposal instructions are included again in the resource opportunity. There's a 3-page project description with a specific outline, and there's documentation formatting that's all described on the website that you can all find in the proposal instructions. Again, some of the review criteria is your alignment with education and workforce development focus, your readiness, so really be able to show that you have a course coming up, an instructor, a teaching assistant, and that the match of the request makes sense with what you're trying to do. You want to also show that you've sort of used and tested out this material on resources like this before, and that you have experience using these resources. Again, somewhat similar to the previous project description, it's broken down into these 4 parts. And again, here's a hypothetical example from a real research proposal of what a classroom justification looks like. The proposers are requesting both AI notebooks and compute capacity in their own specific units. They request support to help integrate the GPU resources into their work. And they also really kind of specify the total number of hours and the number of students that are going to be supported. Next is a startup opportunity. This is a great chance to really, I don't know what I'm doing and I kind of want to figure it out, and this gives you a good chance to really test things out. Get good estimates. This is exactly what startup opportunities are for. So startup opportunities offer resource testing, and it gives you a lot of benefit beyond just the numbers. It helps demonstrate your project readiness. You might not have the resources to do a full test, or you might not have used this platform before, but a startup opportunity really offers you to be able to do the testing, and you can show sort of meaningful progress on how you're going to use those resources. This also helps you a lot with the computational scaling and being able to show your usage when you do a full resource request. One thing you want to do is really pick similar hardware. If there's something you're aiming for in your full research or classroom allocation, try to pick similar hardware in your startup request so that you kind of have a right example that would fit your needs. There's also some other resources outside of NAIRR that are available in the sort of very similar startup space. There's the Access program that Shelley talked about. There's PATH program, which is NSF Partnership for Advanced Throughput Computing. There's an NIH Cloud Lab. There's a DOE Leadership Computing Facility. As I see with my Science Gateway hat, a lot of times the biggest barrier is sort of awareness of these opportunities. So there are a lot of free resources out there. A lot of folks like us at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, we want to engage researchers, scientists, educators. We want you to come in the door. We want to help you advance your classroom education, advance your research, and there are a lot of freely available resources for you. The big point here is getting help. There is a lot of great help out there. The nairrpilot.org website has all the information about the resource opportunities. It has the previous awards, which gives you a good lens into what's been offered before. The FAQ is excellent. A lot of people worked very hard on that FAQ. It answers a lot of questions. There's also an events and training page. These office hours are really great, especially if there are resource-specific office hours you're interested in. And there's NAIRR Pilot office hours. And then you can also submit a ticket. So there is lots of help out there for you to get the support you need. And then just a quick wrap up, again, this is a resource request proposal. It's not a research proposal, it's not a classroom proposal, so really following the instructions and adjusting appropriately to those. Really demonstrate that you're immediately able to start the resources, whether it's a startup, which is 3 months, or a full request, which is 12 months, we want you to be able to kind of get started immediately. When you do a full resource request, you are going to submit progress reports, so being able to show that you're making progress is really important. Just like we tell our students, show your work, please show your calculations when describing how much resources you need, and then ask for help. Just like we want our students to come to office hours, leverage the office hours, leverage all the support you need. There is lots of really wonderful staff available to help you.